everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at a number of decks and a number of crystals, semi-precious stones that I use in my rituals for the times of the year in which I feel a little bit overwhelmed. The times in which this overwhelm is provoking a bit of anxiety within myself, and generally speaking we're talking about transitioning times. It can be related to weather. For example, I live in the southern hemisphere, and that means that we are going towards the darker days of the year, the darkest part. We're losing sunlight every day. It is very noticeable, and so it's something that obviously does have a kind of a strong effect on me. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you're in spring right now, and that can feel overwhelming too, because there's a number of things that are changing. The season is changing, but there's also a lot of pressure. Summer is just around the corner. It's the first part of the year that is coming to an end, so that can lead to a lot of anxiety as well. So what I really want to talk about is, I want to show you is all of the rituals, as I said, including decks, and also these really beautiful stones, these bracelets that I received from the company of the Spirit, which I am very happy to say have renewed my partnership with until the end of the month of June. So for an additional 3 months, you will be able to still use my link and my promotional code Silvia20 in order to receive a discount of 20% on anything that you buy out of the Auto Spirit website. It is a fantastic company. For every single item that they sell in their website, they donate $1 to the companies, organizations and charity organizations that are dedicated to the preservation of sea otters. We love otters in the tarot community. We love otters. I have made a video in which I was showing you all of the decks that have an otter into the cards, and there's many of them, and many of you actually contributed to that video by telling me, for example, that there's many other decks. Thank you for that. It's absolutely amazing. But we also know that it is a species that we really want to preserve. We really want to. We care so much about. I personally, and I'm an advocate for ocean preservation, so obviously not just sea otters, but any other flora and fauna related to the ecosystem of the oceans. But in this case, this is a company that is really doing a fantastic job. I really highly recommend them. So we are going to have a look at these 3 stones in specific, these 3 crystals in specific, because these ones, this one is what they call an intention pack, and in specific is the intention pack dedicated to anti-anxiety. So it is something that is obviously working a lot on the properties of these specific stones. We'll have a look at it later. So one of the decks that I want to talk about today is this one here, which is the Crystal Grid Oracle, which is released by Rockpool. This is the deluxe edition. I know that there's also another edition in circulation. I actually made a mistake of buying that one before I found out that this one was the one that I wanted, because it does come with a lot more cards. And this one, I've already opened the deck as a matter of fact, but what I wanted to show you is the guidebook, because it is something that ties up with the stones that we're going to have a look at today. So I strongly believe that whenever there's you're going through something that is a bit overwhelming and that gives you a little bit of, or even a lot of anxiety, one way to ground yourself is to surround yourself of crystals that can actually give you this sense of balance and protection, and that can make you feel like you're in a safe space, and that is giving you all the chances that you can in order to fight off that sense of anxiety. And another thing that I want to talk about is how you can actually combine the use of crystals like these and bracelets, for example, but also actual stones and crystal in any shape, and the rituals that you can find in a few of the decks that I'm going to show you today. For example, the Crystal Grid Oracle will provide you with a lot of exercises. I believe there's about 72 exercises that you can do, and you can find the way to use them that suits you best, because obviously many of us will prefer to use a certain ritual. Many of us will just not, that ritual will not resonate a lot, so we will choose something different. I've already put put a card as a bookmark for the ones that I wanted to show you today. We'll talk about the ancestors later because there is a very specific deck that I wanted to talk about related to this card. And there's another deck related to self-love as well. So let's have a look at this one. This is the bigger picture. So it is something that I really want to remind myself all the time. The bigger picture and focusing on the bigger picture, it helps me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it helps everyone. But whenever I feel overwhelmed by, oh my goodness, there's so many things that I have to do, and it gives me anxiety. Whenever I feel like I have a lot of problems, whenever I feel like there's a number of things that are not going the way they should, and that obviously creates a lot of anxiety, I like to think that I need to focus on the bigger picture. I am safe, I am healthy, I am surrounded by person that I love, and they are safe and they are healthy. When I focus on that, it doesn't solve the problem. So please understand that these rituals by themselves, they don't solve the problems. We're not talking about magical ritual. We're talking about something that helps you feel grounded. It helps you finding that sense of balance that anxiety would definitely tarnish, would definitely damage. So in order to restore it, I do these kind of rituals. So when we're looking at the bigger pictures, card, for example, we're talking about wave of light, the bigger picture, clearing the way, compassion, wave of light quartz, and adventuring. So it talks about the specific properties of these stones. And then when you look at the other page, which is this one here, it also gives you, and as I said, for each and every one of these 72 cards, it gives you an exercise. So what I recommend to do is, for example, when you pair up, we've got an amethyst here, which is, for example, we find it a lot in all of these crystal grids. And obviously that talks a lot about protection, for example. So that is something really interesting that you can do. And at the same time, whenever I am charging a deck, sometimes I would just literally put one of these. For example, let's grab the howlite, which is this one here, which is one of my favorite stones, and I would just put it here and I will let it charge the deck. So you don't always have to use a stone like this one. In this case, you can also use your bracelet or your earrings if you purchase an earring, or also your necklace, for example. But in any case, this is something that I really want to stress. The important thing is to connect your rituals with the elements that you already have. You know me, I will never push you to buy something. I do recommend, if you work a lot with crystals, I do recommend that you purchase at least the Crystal Grid Oracle, because it does give you a lot of possibilities, and being a very affordable mass market deck means that it won't set you back hundreds of dollars. In this case, in Australia, you can find this for, I believe, about $35 Australian, which is, let me think, it's about 25. Yeah, it's about, no, 23 US dollars. So as you can see, it's not a very expensive item, but it will give you so much you can work on when, for example, you combine it also with these type of jewelry. So this exercise, if there is a situation you need to see from a different angle, then journeying or meditating with way of life could be very beneficial. Set the intention of the journey or meditation as being able to see the bigger picture, and ask for spirit to guide you to see from a different angle what you're not seeing in this moment. You may be overwhelmed by something you're focusing on, but there might be something a lot more important in your life you're not focusing on, and that will give you balance. You could also ask for spirit to show you in your dreams or send you a sign. Calling in eagle or owl medicine is also good for this work, as they soar high above and see with such precision. Owls can see well in the dark and seek out truth. So if something is hidden, then owl will help you find it. Which is really interesting, obviously. And there's a number of things that you can look at throughout all of this. Not just the decks, but also, let's say, and even more so, I would say, the guidebook. So, talking about now, reminding you how the Otter Spirit Company works, and the reason behind this video is to focus on intention, and intention, what they call the intention pack. So, let's have a look at it. So as you can see, you can shop by intention. You can also shop by a zodiac sign, but because we're talking about intention today, it's all about intention. So let's just go into the intention packs. And when you tap on the menu shop by intention, you will see you will have a number of intention packs, among which anti-anxiety, balance, communication, confidence, creativity, family, growth, healing, love, money and success, productivity, protection, strength and wisdom. The one we're going to talk about today, because we're going to have a look at my practice around anxiety, is the anti-anxiety one. And so you will see that it's exactly the one that I'm wearing today. So obviously the anti-anxiety bracelet pack is this one. So let's have a look at what it says here. So when we look at the, so we can see it in the website. There's obviously there's photos, there's video, etc. But what I would like to bring your attention to is the meaning and spirituality tab. So if you click on it, then you will see everything is explained really well in a very simple way, but also in a very resonating way, especially if you are within the tarot community. Let's say these are terms that we're already familiar with, because when we talk about the howlite, for example, howlite is the soothing stone, and obviously it's this one here, and the affirmation is I stay calm in stressful situations. And then I like it that there's an association with a alchemical element, so the alchemical element of air in this specific case, and also an association with the crown chakra. When we move on to the amethyst, which is this one here, obviously we're looking at amethyst as the peace of mind stone, and I completely agree. And the mantra or the affirmation is I am letting go of fear and embracing peace. And then the element is again air, and connection with the chakra is the third eye and also the crown chakra. And finally the rhodonite, which is the pink one here, which is a stone for compassion and nurturing, which is very important, compassion and nurturing towards ourselves as well, obviously. And the affirmation is I am kind and compassionate to myself and others. The element of earth and fire, and so as you can see we got 2 elements of air and 1 of earth and fire. The only missing element will be water, but to be honest with you, because we're looking at an anti-anxiety pack, I believe that water is probably something that will just tip the balance. So we probably need to stay with the other 3 elements, especially earth, I would say. But it is very interesting for me that we have 2 stones that belong to the element of air, because I'm an air sign. So I actually find myself at home with these. So the chakras associated with the rhodonite are the earth and the root chakra. Now I just wanted to say that, as you can see, all of the stones that are made into jewelry by this company, Otter Spirit, are all triple grade, and they're all ethically sourced, which is something that is incredibly important for me. And I can assure you that because I asked directly to Becca, which is my contact at Otter Spirit, and she confirmed to me they're all ethically sourced. So as we've seen, we have the possibility to work a lot by combining crystals, the use of crystals, and the decks that I'm going to show you today. So one additional deck that I wanted to show you, that I want to talk about, is actually a pairing. So it's a pairing between a tarot and an oracle deck. Now these 2 decks, this one is the Radiant Wilds Tarot, and this one is the Wild Whispers Oracle. They are both by the same creator, Nat Gergsberger, and they are both being published by the same publisher, Rockpool. However, this is a tarot deck from a couple of years ago, I believe, and this is an oracle deck that has only been published a few weeks ago. I would strongly recommend, if you have these 2 decks, to use them together, because not just because it's the easier thing to do. And now let me just explain something. When I say the easier thing to do, is because I'm obviously looking at the aesthetics of a deck. Now, when I want to challenge myself, I would definitely look for something more challenging, perhaps trying and pairing up 2 decks that have absolutely nothing to do one with the other. But when I'm looking for a deck or a couple of decks that I can use for a very specific time of the year, and such as this one, so a time of the year that is slightly it is producing anxiety for me, then in that case, why would I want to make things more difficult? I have been given the possibility by purchasing these two decks, and also thanks to the intention and the creation of Nat, I have been given the possibility to use them together. And so they're already, it's almost as if it was a gift given to me in order for my mind to try and keep still. So that is one thing that I do. One part of the rituals that I do when I look at my decks, for example, I do play with pairings. I play with pairings between tarot and oracle deck, tarot and tarot decks. Not necessarily oracle and oracle, but you know, I do kind of switch sometimes. But this is something that really helps me, not because I want to do some divination work, not because I want to do some self-improvement or shadow work, but because I really want to still my mind. And this is really helpful for me when I reach that point in which I feel balanced. I feel like I am in a very safe space. I feel like I can let go. I feel like I can dedicate myself to feeling good about what I'm doing and what lies in the future, what lies in the card for me, and what is going to happen. So this is incredibly powerful for me to actually fight off that sense of anxiety. It's also because, let me tell you, these two decks, they both express these really strong cosmic vibes, but more than cosmic, what I feel, and it's also related to the elements and the images here, is a very calm vibe that gives you, for example, being in a desert, sitting on a dune at dusk or immediately after sunset. That sense of quiet and stillness and peace that is very conducive for meditation, obviously not during a sandstorm. It did happen to me. I was in the desert during a sandstorm. Let me tell you, not the most pleasant thing, but it wasn't something that happens all the time. I have been to several deserts around the world, and I always find that there is this really strong sense of calm and peace, especially after the heat of the day. Obviously, when it's, you know, the sun is at the zenith, you don't necessarily feel the peace because it's really hot. But when the sun sets and you can finally start feeling the nice temperature, you know, it's cooling down a little bit, and you have your water, you're hydrated, and you just sit, and you've been maybe hiking the whole day or been on a camel the whole day, but you can finally relax. And that is the moment in which I really want to reach out for these feelings of being okay, being safe, being in a safe space, knowing that I can focus on something that is going to be okay. And these two decks together, because they are so common, because there's so many common vibes and energy between these two, they really don't require a strong effort from my mind in order to create these connections, and so I can relax. I am not complicating my life. I'm just going with the flow and surrendering to the flow. So this is something that I really, really like and appreciate, and it's part of my rituals for times like this. So another ritual that I want to talk about, this is something that I always do whenever I feel overwhelmed and anxious about something, because I feel like connecting with our ancestors is incredibly important, and it gives us a sense of hope that is stronger than anything you can manage to have in your own life. You can have financial security, you can have stability in your heart, you can have stability when it comes to your job, you can be healthy, for example. That is an incredibly important thing. But if you don't feel like you're supported by your ancestors, by your lineage, and by that I mean the importance of feeling like you belong. So it is very powerful to feel like you belong in your society, in your nucleus, in your family, within your friends, your circle of acquaintances, at work, of course, in your community, etc. But one very important and powerful way to feel like you belong is when you feel like you belong to a line, a lineage, let's say, that connects you to your ancestors and shows them and shows you the way in which they are actively supporting you and looking after you, and being your guardian angels. And by guardian angels, I don't mean, and I mean in a very spiritual way, let's put it this way. So this is a deck that I absolutely adore. It's made me very emotional many times, so I'm trying to keep myself zen right now, because I really want to get through showing you this deck without getting emotional. Can't promise anything, but this is a very important deck in my spiritual life, because it has helped me a lot, feeling like I wasn't alone. If you know me, I have absolutely no problem in sharing that I have lost the majority of my family, unfortunately, to several illnesses, but also, when we talk about really close friend, unfortunately, I have lost one of my closest friends as well. And so I feel like, on the one hand, it makes me really sad because I am a human being, and of course I'm sad. But on the other hand, I also feel like I really feel their support. I feel like somehow they're still watching over me. Somehow they are protecting me. And even though sometimes my rational mind, because unfortunately I am a bit of a inconsistent person, because I have a very strong spiritual side, but I also have an incredibly strong rational mind. It is what it is. So there is my spiritual side that tells me, yeah, don't worry, they're watching over you, you're gonna be fine, they protect you, they love you, you're fine. And then my rational mind, you don't say that, you don't know that. How do you say that? How can you know? Do you have any proof? And what are you basing your affirmations on? And there is always a bit of a battle in between my head between these two sides of myself, but it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes I choose either one or the other. It depends on what I want to achieve. So, because we're talking about elders, obviously in this case, elders for me also includes your lineage, but also includes someone that is not necessarily, or was not necessarily related to you, but it is still part of let's say your protection, your sphere of protection. This deck is by Hay House, and it has been created by Sean Leonard. However, the artwork is by Tracy Metallic and Aaron Google. So I really love the very strong shamanic power and vibes of this deck. It is very strong in this deck. But I also, may I say, the artwork and the color palettes, just absolutely gorgeous, really gorgeous. So I am showing you this one because I am showing you currently the decks that I'm using in my rituals, okay? So not necessarily for divinations. I wouldn't use, I know that you can, but when it comes to the Crystal Grid Oracle, I wouldn't, personally, I don't use it for divination. I don't really use it as an oracle. I do use it a lot for rituals. I find the rituals here. And the Wisdom of the Elders Oracle, again, to me, that is one of the decks that I use mostly, 99% of the time, for rituals. And let me tell you, I have actually created a few spreads, custom spreads, that I use in October when the veil is thinning, in order for me to give myself all of the chance that I can to understand what the message is from the elders, from my ancestors. Now this one, because we were talking about crystals related to some of these decks. For example, this one, if I find it, it's this one here. So it's card number 8, yes, you can see that, and it's about ancestors. And so this is the Preseli Bluestone Ancestors Wisdom Guidance. Preseli Bluestone Quartz, Optical Calcite again, and 20 Celtic Ogham Staves. So obviously, how should I say this? To me, mixing up Ogham Staves and crystals becomes something a bit more complex than what I would normally do in a ritual. But I completely understand the way these have been used. So for example, here, when we talk about the exercise, creating an altar, where you can honor and contact your ancestors is a beautiful ritual. So obviously I want to check this out. I want to see how they do it. I do have my own altars for respect and worship of the ancestors. And I use a couple of things that I found in the island of Flores in Indonesia, where they have a really strong cult of the ancestors, for example. So in here it gives you an idea. Does it work for you? Does it not work for you? It doesn't really matter, just as long as it gives you an inspiration. And I am really grateful. I don't use the organ staves, but that's up to you. If you do have them, by all means check it out, maybe it will work for you. But what I wanted to bring your attention to is that in this book you can really get to use a number of things that are becoming part of your rituals, and they're making it even more sacred. At least for me, that's the way it works. So getting back to this deck, you will find in the guidebook as well that, for example, we have a lot of, let's say it doesn't come with exercises and actual rituals, but you can create them yourself by reading about the cards. So for example, number 29 is a sacred journey transformation. Butterfly teaches us the sacred journey we all walk through throughout our life. Each one of us has a unique and individual path bestowed upon us with distinct challenges we must face. Sometimes we must go through enormous amounts of struggle, but in the end it is through struggle that we achieve spiritual growth. So it talks about this. Obviously it is always very interesting because it relates to the elements of the cards, the symbology. That is, you can extrapolate that and also use it in a more general way. As I said, this deck is very shamanic, so if you have another deck that is just as shamanic or it feels that way to you, and I'm thinking for example the Balgowlah Tarot, that is an incredibly shamanic deck for me, so I actually use these two together. But also the Gentle Tarot by Mary in the Sky, that feels also very shamanic. And there's a number of other decks, also mass market decks. There's actually a couple of decks, I believe, by Rockpool that have been recently published. One is called the Drum Circle Oracle, so you can, I don't have that one, but I'm imagining that it's quite, I've seen it and it is very shamanic in images, and I'm imagining in energy and vibes as well. So what I like about what they propose to you in this book is the last part here. So if you have drawn the Sacred Journey card today, take note of the cycles experienced by butterfly. Are you currently in an egg stage, possibly giving birth to some new idea of life, a caterpillar phase requiring a major decision to be made? Are you presently wrapped in a cocoon, nurturing and developing the changes taking place? Or lastly, have you reached a state of metamorphosis where you are being called to break out of your shell and show the world your true self? So obviously what happens here is that you can use this card if you do draw the Sacred Journey. You can actually customize a spread with 4 pools. So there are 4 stages here: caterpillar, cocoon, and egg, caterpillar, cocoon, and metamorphosis. And you can see by throwing, for example, a tarot card for each and every one of these stages, what that inspires you to think about. If you're journaling about this, then you can put your thoughts into words, and then you can take that with you throughout the day. Or for example, you can decide to associate that, as I said in here, with the word ancestors. We got the bluestone, the quartz, the optical calcite, and the organ staves. So it is always something that it doesn't specifically focus on one thing, but it's a number of material that you need in order to compose and create these rituals. And trust me, it can be as many or as little as you have, or as many and as little as you want, in order for you to feel it. It just is, that is the important thing. It needs to be helpful to you. It needs to make you aware of what you're going through and help you out through these difficult times. So it is really, really beautiful. The book is extraordinary, as I said, and also the cards are very and yeah, they're very emotional for me. But So obviously you have very beautiful images here, and you also have the title, Grandfather, Son, Sacred Fire, but also a keyword. So this one, I guess this one can also be used, if you so wish, as an oracle deck, because of the keywords. Absolutely. It pairs up really well with the Gentle Tarot, by the way, because the colors are very similar. And there's also a lot of animals, but also because, as I said earlier, it does have this really strong sense of shamanic power, obviously with the dream catcher and dream time, etc. So this is part of one of the decks that I use at a time like this, when I feel a little bit overwhelmed with anxiety. I love this bear card. It's so gorgeous, and it's about bravery. I really, really love it. So absolutely, something that I highly recommend. Again, this is another mass market deck, so it is very affordable. And just to show you another deck that is still part of what I would say my rituals, the rituals that I use at a time like this. This is the grief deck. I've talked about this deck once before. This is not, well, let's put it this way. I probably gave you my first impression on the deck when I bought it first, and then I started using it, probably not every day, but at least twice a week, because we all go through grief at different times in our lives. There's no two ways around that, unfortunately. But this is a deck that you can actually use in times of overwhelm and anxiety, and not necessarily for those feeling to be given by an event such as the loss of someone. It certainly is based on that, but you can use it at different times in your life as well. The rituals that you can find here are incredible. They are very powerful, to the point that in some cases I will find myself thinking, I probably should divide this ritual in two parts and maybe do one day and then wait a week and then do the second part. It's obviously up to you. What happens with these cards is that the way I use it is, let's say, by twofold. So I use it either by looking at the images and stopping whenever I feel like there is an image that really means something for me. And then I turn it and I look at the ritual that, or whatever it is that is written on the back. And if it is a ritual, then I would try and carry that out. If it's just a, let's say, some prompts for meditation, then I will use it for meditation. Or if it's something that is just for me to create an affirmation within myself and so on and so forth. There's a number of ways in which you can use this deck. Okay, I'm just gonna try and find the card where we can see a ritual and we can talk about it. You see, the image is very simple. It's just someone making a braid out of hair, obviously, but when you turn it, then you will see this. So simple grief prompts for children and adults. I honestly believe that they didn't need to make the distinction. This is prompts for anyone going through grief, but it's not just grief. Let me just read them to you to make it more clear. Finish these thoughts. So you can literally write down the first part and then you meditate and write down the second part. 3 people who understand my grief are, and obviously you come up with 3, and it makes you think. And this is incredibly powerful, because when you have a prompt like this, you start thinking, who's the person who's always there for me? My husband. Who's someone else within my friends that is always there for me? And I have 2-3 names that I can, talk about. And, if at work, perhaps someone is there for me and then understands my grief at work because they've gone through the same. It is very powerful to start thinking about that. Why? Because it literally makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you're not alone. There is someone who's there for you. There is someone who's ready to help you out. So you're not alone. You're not an island. So that's already positive. Then, in order to heal, I need, and then you start thinking, what do I need? I need some rest. I need some nourishment. I need a holiday. I need a bit of ritual therapy. I need to watch a movie. I need to listen to music. I need to read a book, and so on and so forth. Even just by thinking about these things, you actually get actively healing. You start the process of healing even just by planning to do some healing. That is already positive for you, trust me. When I'm alone, and this one could bring about a couple of conflict. When I'm alone, I'm sad, and so on and so forth. I hope this is also incredibly positive, because I hope that I will one day feel stable, feel secure, feel at peace, feel grounded. I'm letting go of anxiety, the sense of being alone. I'm looking forward to going to Japan again this June. I feel relieved that we bought travel insurance, because you never know. You know, it could be something really like daily. It doesn't have to be something incredibly complex to think about. I comfort myself by eating a piece of chocolate. I secretly love horror books, but I can't tell a lot of people, even though it's not true. I actually tell everyone, because I always say that in my videos, but I cannot tell say for example some relatives, because God knows what they might think of me, because I love horror books. The loss has changed the way in which I relate to people. I really make sure that I tell them how much I love them, because you never know if you have the time. At night I think about, no, I sleep. I try and sleep. That's I'm learning to be forgiving with myself. I feel the loss mostly when, at times like, honestly, at times like this, whenever I'm overwhelmed, I feel the loss of someone I love, because I feel like I probably want to talk to them. I feel like I want to relate to them. I feel like I want to hear their voice, and I cannot, because they're not there anymore. So as you can see, there's a number of rituals. I mean, not all of the cards at the back have a ritual, but many of them. I would say probably at least half of them will have a ritual. This one is Revitalizing Water Ritual for this card, for example. And take a drinking vessel and fill it with water. Hold the vessel in your hands and concentrate. Say the names of your loved ones, spirit guides, ancestors. Allow them to channel through you with the water as the connector. Breathe deeply as you collect and feel their energies. Allow this energy to flow to your fingertips and then to the glass of water. Drink the water and allow it to recharge you. So as you can see, they're very simple. You don't need to spend money. You can literally just take a glass, you know, and fill it with water and then drink it. It's all about the intention, and that's why we're talking about intention today. But this is a fantastic deck. Some of the cards are really, really powerful, as you can see. And so this is another or many other rituals that I do at this time of the year. And then another ritualistic deck that I want to talk about. This one is not a mass market deck, by the way. This one is, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's mass market, but yes it is, sorry. For Princeton Architectural Press. So from 2022, Adrian Jinnick, and I found this on Amazon, so I think it probably is available. This one is not a mass market deck. This is an indie deck, and I'm not entirely sure whether it's still available or not. I hope it is. This is the Energy Archaeology Oracle deck by Ashley Stinson. The illustrations are by Kelly Finnan, and it comes with this book. And let me just tell you, the combination between the cards and the book is just absolutely amazing. When it comes to rituals, what I generally do, this is more like pulling a card. So let me just show you. And I generally, even though I try and I shuffle the deck I could shuffle the deck for hours, but I always pull the right card. It's incredible. Sometimes I think that I have so many, let's say, I don't want to call it problems, but sometimes I think that it's always the right card, because I can always find an area of concern, whichever one the card is. So if it points to my toes, I could probably tell you, yeah, I lost a toenail the other day because I'm walking too much. Or if it points to my scapula, I would say, yeah, I don't know, I didn't sleep well last night and now it hurts. So maybe that's the reason it resonates so much no matter what card I pull. Or maybe it's just because it literally just knows which card I need to focus on and do a ritual on. So let me just pull a card and let's see what the message from today is. And I want to go here, so let's pull this one. Okay, I've never pulled this one before. This is called Surrender, and it's about the false ribs. So what I generally do as a ritual when I use this deck at this time of the year, so false ribs, so I go to the table of contents, and then I go here and I search by the keywords, so surrender, under S for surrender, page number 120. So I go to the page 120 and it's right here. And so I obviously I have the same card, so I don't necessarily need to put the card here because we've got it in the guidebook as well. Surrender is a choice you can freely make when you trust that you are supported and are willing to receive that support and protection. Obviously, we've talked about the protection from the ancestors earlier in the video today. So surrender to me is something that comes as a next step. Once I find the balance and I believe in the support that I can receive from someone, then that's the moment in which I will decide whether to surrender or not surrender. For me, to be honest with you guys, it's not an easy thing to even think about, contemplate or do. I am an air sign. I need to keep control over pretty much everything, but I am working towards it. I remember doing years and years and years of yoga, and every time there was this concept and talking about the concept of surrender, and I never completely agree with that. But this is just me, it's personal, but this card may be resonating for a lot of people. So I like it because it shows you the properties, talking about the alchemical element, which is earth, and then a light meaning, which is regenerative and hopeful, and then a out of balance, which will be the equivalent in tarot of a shadow meaning, fearful, stagnant, expectant, and associated cards are capacity, catalyst, open, protection, vulnerability, which you can then work with if you want. Then it talks about the actual anatomical element. So what are the false ribs? The false ribs are so named because they do not directly attach to the sternum in the front of the body. Instead, they are joined to the seventh rib by costal cartilage. I don't mean to go too much into details with this, but this is extremely interesting, obviously, to understand how our body works as well. And then the part that I use for my rituals are in the second page. So here, when it talks about energy, the false ribs are the earth element of the rib cage. They are always grounded in what you feel is true at your core. If you believe you're supported, a natural inclination is to open. If you believe you're unsupported or unprotected, the energy will repress and lock in at the rear of these ribs. So it basically helps you understand if you have a problem in this area, what that might be related to. You're feeling unsupported, so obviously you will not surrender. Maybe that's what I'm going through. Maybe that's why surrendering comes in such an incredibly difficult way to me, because I don't trust enough the way, the level of support that I can get. So energetically, these three ribs give you room to breathe and to choose. If you feel supported, safe, secure, and regulated, surrender can be freely achieved. And then here there's, for example, at the bottom here, you will see there's a number of questions that I generally use for my journaling. But in here, there's a little bit of wisdom that I always read. Surrender is a choice you can freely make when you trust that you are supported and are willing to receive that support and protection. Fear holds you back from surrender. Fear of the things you don't know or haven't figured out for yourself. So maybe that's something I need to look into. Fear that something hidden in the shadows may come up fully when you're open and vulnerable. Fear of the unknown. Fear that something beyond your current grounding and comprehension wants to move through you and flow with you. Who are you if you feel these fears and surrender anyway? You are safe, protected, secure. So this is something that inspires me to do. When there's a number of exercises for meditation that you need to do when you're absolutely in a safe environment, you feel 1000% safe. But when you're going through something and you're scared about something that may happen, You can go through that in a very guided, really guided by somebody else type of meditation that takes you to imagine what will happen if that thing actually took place. So if you're really scared about losing your job, for example, a guided meditation, but really not by yourself, needs to be someone else that guides you, because it is incredibly deep and it goes through the shadow part of it. But I've done that several times, and it takes you to where you don't want to go, and it tells you, well, okay, say the worst happens, I get fired, okay, I lose my job, okay, what then? And then you start thinking, okay, well, I will start looking for another job. Okay, what are your chances? Okay, well, maybe I need to fine-tune my skills. Okay, maybe I need to get in touch with someone and network. Okay, maybe I need to move to a different place. So just the way in which you churn through all of these thoughts and you go through that is already a way in which you're positively facing your fears. Obviously, you need to be in a very safe environment, because it could be catastrophic as a result, as you can imagine. And then obviously I will answer all of these questions at the bottom. So this is another deck that I highly recommend. Let me just show you the cards, because these are really beautiful as well, independent on whether you want to use it in a ritual or not. And to be honest with you, this is another deck that I honestly wouldn't recommend as an oracle deck for divination. I mean, you can use it because it does come with keywords, so of course you can use it that way as well, but why would you? First of all, it is not entirely affordable. As a matter of fact, it is an indie deck. If it's still available, it's still around 100 Australian dollars, and then you have to add shipping, of course. So there's a number of things that really make me think, in my practice, I want to use it with a lot of intention, and sometimes divination is just something temporary and something that I may pull the cards for, but I have so many other decks that I can use for divination, and I don't necessarily feel like this one is the best deck for divination. However, its best use is in these types of ritual. So absolutely fantastic deck to be used at times like this. And then moving on, I believe that when it comes to rituals, I believe that I've shown you everything that I wanted to. There is another deck that I really love to use at times like this. It's another indie deck, but these are about just the only two decks that are indie decks. All the other decks that we're going to have a look at today are actually mass market, and they're quite affordable. So this one is the Self-Love Tarot. And let me just quickly show you, because I've been talking for over an hour already. It's just that I really appreciate when a tarot tuber is showing me the way they use their own decks. It's not just about showing the cards, but really show me how you use the cards. And that's I've been really inspired by Anna from the Astro Lady Tarot, because that's one of the things that she often says. Don't show me the cards, show me how you use them. And so this is a Self-Love Tarot that is very powerful, very beautiful, but also very accepting. And the reason why I wanted to show you this deck is because there's a lot of nudity in this deck, and you will notice that. So I hope that it will not result offensive to anyone. This is not the intention behind showing you these cards. The reason why I wanted to point the nudity out is because it's a nudity that is very grounded, it's balanced, and it's very at peace with the way we look. And so it's a nudity that tells us that it's okay to not be perfect. As a matter of fact, it's okay to feel that we are ourselves. The way in which we reconnect with our own body is the way in which we need to express our self-love. It's not a weaponized nudity. It's not monetized. It's not an aggressive type of nudity. It's a nudity that really tells us that it's okay, however we look is still okay. Just as long as we are healthy, just as long as we don't obviously have problems. So when there starts being issues related to our bodies, then obviously we need to heal ourselves. But when we are healthy, that is the most important thing. If we're healthy, the way we look is always okay, and accepting that is a very strong emotion, and it's a very strong expression of self-love. So that's something that if you know, when I used to live in the northern hemisphere and I used to go to you know, plan your holiday, going to the beach right about this time of the year in April, I was already worried about the way I look, and will I be bikini ready, and will it be okay to show myself, and so on and so forth, and will I be ashamed of the way I look. Honestly, this deck, I didn't have it back then, unfortunately, but if I had it, I would have definitely used it, and I can assure you it really helps me just be at peace with who I am and how I express myself, and the way in which my body is showing to myself and others what my life has been. And I have scars, and because of course I had surgery, and I had this and I had that, and you know, it shows the passing of time, and but it also shows us our life. So really beautiful deck for that type of work. And now I think I have another 3 decks that I wanted to talk about today, and one of them is rather 2 of them are very similar in intention, and I'm going to show them to you together. So one is the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle deck, and one is the Inner Child Oracle. These are both mass market and very affordable, and they, in my practice, they cover more or less the same type of practice area, let's say. So they are incredibly accepting, incredibly grounding decks that really help me feel like I'm okay, I'm going to be okay, they're really grounding decks. So when I think about the overwhelm of this season, it is very easy to work with these, because they talk to me about acceptance, they talk to me about grounding, they talk to me about being okay. Or, you know, there is one of my favorite movies that is the Marigold Hotel, and the protagonist at a certain point says everything will be okay at the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I know that it sounds like a little bit of a, you know, a catchy phrase, almost like a commercial, you know, one of those catchy phrases in a commercial. But to be honest, it does work for me. It really does. It tells me that, you know, there's a way of looking at things and not feel overwhelmed by them. And so I really want to reach that. So let me just show you. This one is new in my collection. I've shown this deck last week, but I have been working with this deck a couple of times already. And this one is the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle. I've been working for more than a year with this deck. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to show you these 2 decks together because I really feel like, even though they probably don't have much in common when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to the way in which I use them, they have a lot in common, and they are very important decks in my collection. Obviously I use them whenever I need to, which is sometimes quite often. When it comes to the aesthetics, I would say I probably prefer the one on the right, so the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle deck. But when it comes to, you know, the softness of a deck, the one on the left, the Inner Child, is based on Benny Blue. So it's obviously related to a character that you may know or not know. It doesn't really matter, but it's always based on something that we can admire and we can feel comfortable with. And also it feels like we are in a circle of friends, we're within, you know, someone who can not hurt us, because it feels that safe, as you can see here with the self-love, for example. So really interesting, very, both of them very deep, very strong, very poignant, powerful messages all around. And when it comes to the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle, there's also an elemental association, as you can see, so you can definitely use that however you want. So you can actually go a little bit deeper than just whatever the keywords on the cards are. It depends on you. Absolutely stoked about these two decks here. And then let me just go through the last deck, which is a really cute deck, and sometimes it responds to that need that I have at a time like this, in which I really want to feel okay, and I want to just understand that even though, you know, the rational part of myself tells me you don't know that everything is going to be okay, but if I take things one at a time, step by step, I give myself all of the chance that I need in order to make things okay. And so sometimes I use decks like this, and this is very not very new in my collection. It's from probably a couple of months ago. I remember buying it towards the end of January as a present for myself for my birthday. And I remember thinking, this is really not my style. I don't know if I'm going to resonate with this deck or not, but I'm still going to try it out. This is the Westwood Tarot by Yasmin Westwood. And it's also a mass market deck. I have to say though, when it comes to mass market decks, this is not the most affordable one, to be honest. But it is really, really gorgeous. So it comes with this chunky monkey of a guidebook that you can see here. And we're always happy when there's a lot to read about for each and every card. As you can see here, for example, with the Two of Wands, you got the keywords and concepts, the light and shadow, the scene. So obviously it talks a little bit about the symbols on the card. It talks about the Two of Wands, what does that mean in a reading. The Two of Wands in love, the Two of Wands in career, in wellness, in finances, the magic of the Two of Wands words, the wisdom for the Two of Wands, and then the spirit guide, which is the mouse. And also you have a quote at the end of it. So there's a lot of information that you can read about the cards in this deck. When it comes to the aesthetics, this is a very interesting experiment, because it is an animal deck, obviously, as you will be able to see, but all of these animals belong in a very fantastic kind of world, and they also show symbols of a steampunk kind of style, which is really cool. And so this one, you know, at the beginning I wasn't even aware of that, and I kept on noticing cards that will show the typical steampunk glasses, for example, or the hats, you know, and I would go, oh, look at this looks really steampunk, like the hat in this case. And then I would see the same type of hats in a different card, and I was thinking maybe there is something common, you know, a common theme to these cards. And finally I decided to read about this deck, and I found out that indeed it was. Better late than never. I do have my Harry Potter kind of card, because I always call this card the Page of Pentacles my Harry Potter. I absolutely love this card. It is a really very peculiar kind of deck, of course, and you guys know me. When I would have to pick one genre or one theme for decks that I cannot live without, is the darker decks. Of course, I have so many of them, I love them all. This is part of something that I enjoy. It is my aesthetics. However, I want to believe that I am open-minded enough to be able to space out and you know, and look at other decks, and look at these ones, for example, which are really beautiful. These cards are incredibly supportive. They, even the Four of Swords, okay, I get it that it is rather dark, but it is also kind of cute. I mean, that's what I feel. Maybe not everyone will resonate with me with what I'm saying, but that's what I feel like saying. And you know, there's so many elements here. You can work a lot with this deck. I would say when it comes to readings, I have tried a reading with this deck a couple of times for myself, and once also for one client. I would have to say it needs to be a very specific type of reading, in the sense that you don't want to do a career reading, you don't want to do a financial reading with this deck. It is very much a self-growth kind of reading that you can do. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show this deck in this video, because it is one of those decks that I use as a ritual at this time of the year. So whenever I feel overwhelmed by a lot of feelings, this deck is definitely helping me through these challenging times. But it's not a deck that you would use to know about potential opportunities at work. I wouldn't put it this way. Then if you use it that way and it works for you, then by all means go for it. You know, there's no, it's not black and white. That's what I meant to say. So this one was the last deck that I wanted to talk about. So I am really excited to hear what you think about these decks and these rituals, and also about the stones what we looked at, because these are the ones that I will be wearing the most throughout the month of April, because these will be the stones that will help me go through these, you know, anxious kind of times, of course. And so don't forget to use my promo code Silvia20, that will get you a 20% discount. And I am very grateful, because every time you do purchase something from Auto Spirit with my link and my promotional discount, then I will receive a very small contribution, but it's always, everything helps, really. So thank you so much for that. But in any case, have a great day, and thank you so much for being here. Bye!